Our guest of honor today is Emily Jody Wickens, Emily of Coquitlam and Brook Mountains. She also served BC Minister of Children and Family Development. She's joining us to discuss about how important it is for supporting children and families in our communities. Thank you for joining us today, Jody.
Thanks for having me. I always love having conversations with you, Sherry.
It's likewise, likewise. Today conversation is very important for our children, youth, and their families, especially when we talk about issues like bullying and supporting in our communities. Why do you think that it is important to talk about this issue and to talk about the safety of our children and our youth?
Yeah, it's so important. We all want our children to go to school and to be in community and feel like they belong, to feel connected, to have friends, to be happy. These things are all really important aspects of having good mental health and having kids who feel good about themselves in their daily lives. And so the more that we can talk about these things with particularly young children, I think the better chances we have of making sure that we don't have crisis or challenging things happen later on. So even with really, really young kids talking about friendships and being kind and understanding that we're all different, but we all have the same insides. We all
Mhm.
have, hearts and blood pumping through our bodies. And at the end of the day, we're human beings. We're a part of a human race, and we need to be kind to each other. And there's far too much unkindness out there. And so we
Yes.
need to begin very young. We need to make sure that children understand how to be kind to one another and the importance
Mhm.
of that. And then that helps them as they grow. And all of the people that I've met that are good leaders, who are strong and healthy and do really good work and are successful, they're the kindest people I know. And so that's why I think it's so important for us to teach this really early on.
On your Facebook a couple of weeks ago, I saw that you were all wearing pink. Now, let's talk about the Pink Shirt Day that promotes kindness and anti bullying. What more can a school and communities do to prevent bullying?
Mhm. Well, I think schools and communities should be safe places for everyone. And so, as much as possible, when schools and communities can talk about the importance of uh, being nice to one another, to having a zero tolerance policy for bullying, to make sure that we are uh, teaching children or even our adults and neighbors that there are certain behaviors that aren't okay, teaching about differences and surrounding ourselves in diverse communities is also really important. Pink Shirt Day was born because a young boy was bullied because he was wearing a pink shirt, because he was told as a boy that he shouldn't wear a pink shirt, and he was severely bullied for it. And he turned that really unfortunate experience into trying to promote anti bullying and promote something really positive. And I think everybody knows what Pink Shirt Day is now.
Yes.
I will say, I don't think Pink Shirt Day should happen on one day. I think we should promote kindness every day. And
Yeah.
so, particularly in schools, I think the more we can have teaching in our curriculum about differences, when you learn about different cultures, when you learn about people who have different backgrounds, and then you build friendships and sit at the same tables as other people that are different than you, I think that that builds tolerance and also understanding and acceptance. And you're better when you surround yourself with people who are different from you and are friends with them and are kind to them. And so I always enjoy participating in Pink Shirt Day because young people come to the legislature and come out in our communities. They wear their pink shirts, they tell their stories, they talk about what they're doing to combat anti bullying, and we all have a role to play. It's a collective responsibility with all of us to make sure we're doing what we can.
As you said, we should practice kindness every day, not just only one day. Now, I
Mhm.
know that there is programs like the CKNW Kids Fund Support for many youth and initiatives. How important are partnership like this it is in our community, Jody?
Well, I think partnerships, if I was to use a word that I thought would help us address many of the issues we have in our society and our communities, partnerships and relationships is one of are two of those words. When we partner together and we have organizations that raise money and provide supports and services, we are able to leverage not only funding better, but get a broader reach. So for CKNW as a radio station to say we're going to promote this, we're going to support funding it, that is really crucial in being a piece of what we can do to eradicate bullying. And our nonprofit partners and nonprofit providers in communities are really important partners in us being able to deliver all kinds of programs and services. Programs around anti-bullying, but programs for mental health services,
Mm-hmm.
for parenting support services, and all kinds of things. So really grateful for the partnerships and the relationships that we have with a wide range of nonprofits, funders, business. We all have a role to play in making sure that our communities are good, strong, healthy places. And so grateful for those partnerships.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Now, I know that you are the Minister of Children and Family Development, and I know that you're doing a great job. It's a big responsibility, Jody. Now, how does your role helps to improve support for children and family across the province?
Thank you. That's a big question, and it's a big role and a big responsibility. It's one that I take very seriously. First and foremost, I'm a mom, and so children are very important to me. I have worked in nonprofit before, supporting families and supporting children and youth, and so I have the opportunity to oversee a ministry that is responsible for ensuring that when children and families need services and supports, they get them,
Mm-hmm.
and that we are coordinating programs and services so that there's access to things like early childhood development programs, children and youth mental health programs. I was
Yeah.
just at the opening of the Tri Cities Foundry Center this morning, which is a one stop place for youth and their families to go when they're challenged with their mental health. They can get access to clinical counseling support, they can access primary care, peer support. And so, my job is really to look at all of the programs and services that we have across our province, make sure that they are funded appropriately, make sure that we are delivering them in ways that are easy to access for children and families, and doing absolutely everything that we can to make life easier and make it so that children thrive, that they feel like they're loved and they belong and that they have a bright future. I was able to announce in this budget 475 million new dollars for children and youth with disabilities. That's going to go really far in transforming how children with disabilities access services, and I'm really proud of that work.
I know that probably families come to you and ask these kind of questions that I'm going to ask. Now, what kind of concern normally family has for this kind of services that they offer, they get offered?
Mhm, mhm. Well, every family is different. We are seeing more complex challenges today more than ever before. There are children who are facing, mental health challenges.
Mm.
We have real challenges around affordability. Families are struggling, to make ends meet. We know the rising cost of groceries, and all of those things can compound into making life challenging for families, newcomers who come from other places of the world, and they might have experienced, trauma, and then need to resettle here in Canada. And so there's a number of things that my ministry does to support around those challenges. Anything from family support, getting families connected to a family support worker who can help them navigate things in their community. I mentioned the Foundry, working together with the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education so that families know where to go when they need supports, whether that be mental health support, whether that be, if their child's development is in question and they're worried about maybe, something like autism or
Mhm.
intellectual disability. How do they get assessed for those things? How can they access the right types of supports? We have child development centers in our community that are funded by the government that they can go and speak to a speech and language pathologist or a physiotherapist or an occupational therapist.
Mm.
So there's a whole wide range of support services that are available dependent on a family's circumstance. And we know that we need to do better. We need to do better coordination. We need to invest in programs and services. And so it's always about looking at how can we deliver better, where do we need to invest the right support based on what we're seeing in community, and just keep doing that work.
Yeah, sorry, you mentioned about mental health. As you know, youth mental health is growing concern in BC. What gaps do you think still need attention, Jody?
Mhm. Well, I think sometimes the challenge with our services, and this very much applies to mental health, is that different ministries deliver different things. And so, that we have the Ministry of Health, we have my ministry, the Ministry of Children and Family Development, we have the Ministry of Education, and sometimes we don't coordinate really well around families, and families feel like they're sent to multiple different places, or the someone in our health system doesn't talk to someone in our education system, and so information gets missed. So those uncoordinated responses are problematic. And so in my role, my job is to look at how we work across government, how we take a whole of government approach to tackling issues like our mental health
Mm.
crisis, to make sure that someone from the Ministry of Health is talking to someone in my ministry, is talking to someone in education when there is an issue that occurs. We do have something, for example, called Integrated Child and Youth um, teams in schools. And it's a really good model of integrated service. So, someone from health, someone from education, someone from MCFD all work within the school district to identify if there is a child with a need, how services are being coordinated around that child. And so, really trying to do that work better. And I think once we can get to that place where that work is being done better, we'll be able to see better outcomes for children and youth as well.
Thank you. And you talked about children with disability, which is very important, especially when the children with disabilities, they're also in the same school that, other kids are. Now, sometimes the services that the family receive, they're facing a long wait time. What do
Mhm.
you like to see as an improvement for these family that do not have to wait that long to get these services for their children with disability?
Mhm. Yeah, so services for children and youth with disabilities is something I'm really passionate about. It's
Mm.
where my background comes from. It's the work that I've done for a really long time. And so I was able to announce this February a redesign of our system with an investment of 475 million new dollars. And so what we're doing in the next year is we're going to transform our system so that more children and youth have access to direct funding. So
Oh,
families
that's a good
will
news.
be
Yeah.
able to get direct funding to support their child based on the need of the child. And so that's part of the announcement. We are also making an $80 million investment in our community based programs and services. So things like speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, physiotherapy, behavior support, group type support, all of those services are getting an increase in funding so that families have better access to those services.
Yeah. Now, in your experience, Jody, how do you think communities actually can help to include children with different abilities in everyday activities?
Mhm. Well, I think there's lots of different ways. I think community organizations do a really good job of creating programs and services in community that children with disabilities can participate in. I think municipalities, cities have a role to play to make sure that their recreation programs are inclusive and that there's supports for children with disabilities. And then I just think families need to be having conversations with their children about differences and being open to inclusion, letting their kids know that just because a child is different doesn't mean that you don't play with them. You know, they're a child just like you're a child, and they need friends too. And sometimes it can be scary. I think some parents maybe just don't know how to approach a child with a disability, or are don't really know how to tell their how to talk to their children about it. But you know, there's kids with who use wheelchairs, or kids with Down syndrome, or kids with autism. They want to play in playgrounds and be at the swimming pool. They go to school just like all of our children do. And so it's really important for us to make sure we're doing everything we can to make them feel included and bridge those friendships. There's a lot of research actually that shows that when children are friends with children with disabilities, they actually have better outcomes. They're more empathetic. They turn out to be kinder adults, and so the research shows it's not only good for the child with a disability to have friends with that don't have disabilities, it's also good for children who don't have disabilities to be around people who do. It's very clear in the research, which is why we need to have inclusion in our schools and our communities.
Let's talk about newcomers, especially people who come across, different countries, and they do not aware of the services or the fundings that are available for children with disabilities, and they don't know how to act with the communities. Is there any organizations or any facilities for these families to learn how to deal with the community and to learn how to go for these funding for their children and get these services?
Hmm. Yeah, I think we need to do a better job of outreach to families. I do think there are some organizations like Success. Um, there are provincial organizations that I know have parents that come from various places. The Autism Support Network, for example, puts on a Farsi speaking parent support group, and tries to do outreach to different types of communities. I think that we also we try as much as possible to make sure that things are in multiple different languages, and so we do need to do a better job. But I think we start where we know newcomers go to get programming, the food bank. Large social service organizations like in the Tri-Cities share. Those organizations really know how to support newcomers and how to direct them to where they get their programs and services. But still, we can do better in that outreach for sure.
Now, my last question to you: what is your vision for helping every child in BC to feel safe and confidence and supported?
Well, it's just that I believe, my vision for the best possible future and outcome is that every child feels that they belong and that they are loved, and that they have a bright future. And so, my job is to make sure that we're working towards that. And I think a lot of that has to do with early intervention and prevention, making sure that families have resources before they reach crisis. It's much easier to provide some support around housing and food security and mental health than it is, to be in a position where a child then comes into government care. It costs much less to support families earlier on than later on in crisis. And so, really making sure that we are taking a whole of government approach, that we're working across our ministries and across silos to coordinate our programs and services, to wrap them around families, particularly those who need to come to the front of the line before they reach crisis, so that, like I said, all children feel like they are loved and they belong, and they have a safe place. We are always looking at how we do better, where we need to invest more. But every day that I wake up in this role, it is an opportunity and a privilege for me to do that work. I get to meet with young people all of the time. I'm going to Prince Rupert next week on a tour.
Mm.
So I get to travel the province and I get to talk to people and really learn from them. And all of that I take with me when I'm in Victoria and I'm working with our public servants and our senior officials. And I that drives me in this role.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Jody, for joining us today and giving us your input. I really do appreciate your commitment to kindness, inclusion, and ensuring that every child has the opportunity to be safe, supported, and valued in their community. Thank you very much, Jody.
Thank you so much, Sherry. It's always an opportunity of a lifetime for me to be chatting with you. Thank you for all the work that you do, and thank you for providing me with the platform. I really appreciate it.
Well, for those who have questions for Jody, please email us at the Skyrise Media Society at gmail.com. Until next time, have a great day.